Okay, so let's start our session in cyber forensics. And guys, today's topic is basically based on a email investigation. तो आज हम अपनी email investigation करेंगे and देखेंगे. Sorry, today we are just going to cover as the email investigation part, and let's see like what type of data we will cover once we are just go to analyze any type of email that is sent by the cyber criminal. So let's see how we can gather the email evidence. So firstly, for the email investigation, you need to understand about like what is the email address and what type of details you just get, yeah, you just received once the any type of email you just received as a evidence from that computing device as well as the server. So firstly we will see like what is the email evidence, and after that we will start the investigation part. Okay, so for the part of email investigation, Let's start. The first thing that is you need to identify like what is email identities and the data. So suppose that if you are working as a forensic investigator, so just remember one thing, guys. Email, maybe the email is a primary evidence. Uh, the email header is a primary evidence into the email investigation. So just remember one thing, as we know that is like we already know the concept of the packet. Like packet is having a two part. The first one that is a header, and second thing that is a content part. So at the same thing, the email is also having a two things. The first thing that is a header part, and the second thing that is a content as well as the body part. So in the header part, what we get some type of detail like what is who's the sender, who was actually sending that mail, who's the receiver, who is basically receiving that mail, and what type of server is basically using for sending and receiving the mail address. So we will get the IP address once we are just analyze the header of that particular email, the authenticity of the email, we can get it, the type of server, the type of software application, if that mail is basically sent by the application, so we will get that information from there. So like that. So this type of information you can easily get. Yeah, you can easily find out once you are just performing the email investigation of the email header part. So in that case, the primary evidence in the email investigation is the email header, as we are already told, as I already told you. The email header contains a considerable amount of information about the emails. So in that case, the email header is a considerable amount of information. It means that is having a sufficient information regarding that particular email. Email header analysis should start from the bottom to top. Once the investigator is basically trying to get some data from that particular evidence, so they are just perform the analysis, they are just starting the analysis procedure from the bottom to top. And because the bottom most information is the information from the sender, and the top most information is about the receiver. So this is the part like how we can gather the email identities. So guys, there is a link which I already written here, that is identify email in the evidence file. If you have an evidence file of the email, which that is you can easily extract with the using of Adopsy tool as well as the case handling procedure. So after that, you can just upload that file on the hashes.com website, and after that, once that website is basically extract all the mails which is available on that particular file. So with the using of that one, you can easily extract it. So I'm not going to show this procedure, but after that, we will see the different types of move procedure that is defined how we can analyze the email header in a proper way. So the next thing that is email forensic investigation technique. Okay, so what is that technique that is used by the forensic investigator? So email forensic refers to analyzing the source and content of email as evidence. Investigation of email related crimes and incidents involve various approaches. Okay, so what is that? In that case, the investigator, cyber crime investigator is basically analyze the source of the content of the email, and they can find out some type of evidence as well as the some types of uh, clues from there. And after that, they are using some approaches so that they can easily find out the evidence from that particular email. So the first approach that is called as a head analysis. So what is a head analysis? Head analysis is a primary analytical technique. This involves analyzing metadata in the email header. So with the using of that technique, you can easily find out the details like the source at IP address, the destination IP address, and more things which I already told you. And it is evident that analyzing header helps to identify the majority of the email related crimes. So if the any type of crime which is related like email spoofing, like a phishing type, like spam, yes, scams type, or even an internal data leakage can be identified by analyzing the header. So as a forensic investigator, this is the best part. Like if you are just analyzing the header of that particular email, so you will get the full details of that particular email part. Now the next thing, that is server investigation. So now what is that server investigation? This involves investigating copies of delivered email and the server logs. So in that case, the cyber investigator is basically need to analyze the server of that particular email address. So once they are just analyzed, so after that they will get some type of information of that particular organization, and organization are basically receiving, yeah, saving the log file which is sent by the any, yeah, which is received as well as sent by the any type of mail via the client, yeah, via the employees on the using of that mail server. So in some organization that they do provide separate email box for their employees by having internal mail servers. In this case, investigation involves the extraction of entire mailbox related to the case and the server log. So this is a technique which you use in a server investigation. So for the server investigation, firstly you need access of that company, organizational server. So if you have access, so you can perform that procedure that is related to the server investigation part. The next thing, that is a network device investigation. So now what is that network device investigation? In some investigation, the investigator required the log maintained by the network device such as the router, firewalls and switches to investigate the source of an email messages. So in that case, the investigator needs to analyze all the log which is maintained by the network device. So sometimes the network device is just like a routers, firewalls, switches, as well as the cam tables, as well as the different types of server related networks also details. So if you are just gather these type of details, so you can get the email source of the email messages. This is often a complex situation where the primary evidence is not present when the ISP or the proxy does not maintain the logs or lacks operation by the ISP. So if you are if just remember one thing, ISP and the proxy servers are not maintaining any type of logs related to the network device. So just remember one thing, is there any type of complex situation is raised, so the investigator as well as the company need to maintain our own logs as for the primary evidence. So just remember one thing, okay. Now, the next thing, that is software embedded analysis. So what is that? Some information about the sender of the email, attached files or document may be included with the message by the email software used by the sender for composing the email. So sometimes the sender is basically using a application as a software for sending the mail. So in that case, you can easily get the information about that particular mail. You can easily get the detail about the software which is used for sending the as well as composing the email. So this information may be included in the form of custom headers or in the form of MIME, that is a content as a transport natural neutral encapsulation format, that is TNEF. So the investigator is basically trying to get some information related to the software which is used for sending for composing the mail, right? Okay. The next thing, that is sender mail fingerprint. So what is that sender mail fingerprint? That is that's information related to like what type of software is basically used by the server. Yeah, what type of software, the application which is used by the sender for sending the mail. So that information you can easily get with the using of analysis of the header. And in that case, there's a few parameters you can analyze that is related to like a xmailer and a user agent. So the received field include tracking information generated by the mail server that have previously handled a message in reverse order. The X-mailer or the user agent field help to identify the email software. So analyzing these fields help to understand the software and the version used by the sender. So guys, the software like जैसे कि for example like Microsoft Outlook 2003 as well as uh, Mozilla Thunderbird as well as Mac is also having a type of software. So you can use this if the sender is using any of these softwares, so you can get the details regarding for the analyzing of the xmailer as well as the user agent. The next thing, that is use of email trackers. Okay, in some situation attackers are different techniques and location for to generating the email. So in this procedure, the attackers are basically using the proxy servers as well as they are using the spoofing IP spoofing procedure for changing the IP address and the location of the generated email. So in that case, in situation, it is very important to find out the geographical location to the attacker. So to get that exact location of the attacker, investigators often use email tracking software embedded in the body of an email. So what the investigator will do, investigator is basically attached a type of software that is a tracking software, and once the mail is basically received, yeah, when a recipient open a message that has the email tracker attached, the investigator will be notified with the IP address and the geographical location of the recipient. This technique is often used to identify suspect in murder or kidnapping cases where the criminal communicates via the email. So sometimes the criminals are using the email conversation. So in that case, you can easily get the IP address, yeah, get the location of that particular email server with the using of email tracking procedure. Now the next thing, that is a volatile memory analysis. So what is that volatile memory analysis? Recent research has been conducted in analyzing spoofed mail from volatile memory. So sometimes I already guys told you the autopsy, that is a case handling procedure. So in that case, once you are just analyzing the complete image file, so you can get the detail about the email. So in that case, if the any type of spoof mail is basically used, so you can analyze by the using of that procedure. Since everything passes through the volatile memory, it is possible to extract email related evidence that is called as a hidden information for the volatile memory. So you can easily get these details also once you are just performing the volatile memory analysis. Now, the next thing, that is the attachment analysis. So what is that attachment analysis? Most viruses and malwares are sent through email attachment. So guys, I already told you the concept of the malware analysis, right guys? So in that case, sometimes the investigator seeing there is a malware is basically binded with the email, and investigation attachment is cruel in email related investigation, confidential information leakage in other important field of the investigation. So these are some kinds of tools are basically used for recover the email data, such as the attachment of the computer hard disk. For the analysis of suspicious attachment, the investigator can upload that document into the online sandbox techniques such as the virus total. So you guys already know about the virus total, which I'm already showing you in the malware analysis procedure. So in that case, the sandbox technique is used by the investigator as a online, and if you want to perform that technique as a offline, so you can configure a cuckoo technique, cuckoo sandbox environment in your local machine, and you can easily gather the information about that particular malware which is doing a type of activity in the victim system. So in that case, the investigator is basically run that particular uh, tool, they run that particular application in the sandbox, and after that they will get the result. Yeah, after that they will see the activity which is doing by that particular malware. So this is the technique guys, how the investigators are basically analyze the attachment analysis. So I already told you, we are already covered this type of part, like the malware analysis part. So this is the same technique which is used in a email investigation also. Now these are all the techniques which is used by the investigator for analyzing the email. Now, the next thing, how we can analyze the email. So there is some There's some links which I already written here. So I'm just going to open these links one by one and let's see how we can get the details. Okay, so for the analysis of header, email header, so firstly we need a raw email header part, right? Raw data of the email. So how we can get it? So I'm just going to show you like how we can get the details about the raw data about the email. So let's come and let's come to the part with email authentication procedures. So what is email authentication? So as I already told you guys, there are three types of authentication is basically used to check the mail is not a spoof, not a fake, not a spam, not a any type of fraudulent mail. So how we can check it with the using of three authentication procedure. The first one that is SPF, the second thing that is a DKIM, the third thing that is a DMARC. Why we are using these authentication procedure? Because SMTP, that is a simple mail transfer protocol, is a basic type of protocol which is used for sending the mail. The SMTP does not include any type of authentication mechanism. So that's the reason why email servers are basically using these authentication procedures. So email authentication is a technical solution to proving that an email is not forged. In other words, it provides a way to verify that an email comes from who it claimed to be from. Email in authentication is most often used to block harmful or fraudulent uses of emails such as phishing and spam. So the most commonly used email authentication standard are SPF, DKIM, and the DMARC. These standards were designed to supplement SMTP, the basic protocol used for send email, the base because SMTP does not itself including any email authentication mechanism. So I hope so, guys. You understand why we are just using the other authentication procedure because the SMTP doesn't have any type of authentication itself, right? Okay, so the how does email authentication works? So there are several different approaches of the email authentication, each with its own advantage and disadvantage. Although the specific technical implementation varies from approach to approach. Okay, in general, the process working something like this. So as we know, guys, very well, the different authentication procedures are basically having a different approaches and they are having a different technical implementations. So in that case they are having some already having some advantage and disadvantage itself. So how the procedure basically works, let's see. A business of or organization send email establish a policy that define the rules by which email from its domain can be authenticated. The second one, the email sender configure its mail server and other technical infrastructure to implement and publish these rules. A mail server that receive email authenticates the message it received by checking details about the incoming email message against the rules defined by the domain's owner. And the last one, that is the receive email. The receive mail server acts upon the result of its authentication to deliver flags or even rejected the message. So these are the works procedure like how the email authentication are actually works. So let's see the authentication standards. So there are three types of authentication standard. The first one SPF, second one DKIM, third one DMARC. So the SPF, which is called as the Sender Policy Framework, and this policy framework is the technical standard and email authentication technique which help to protect email sender and the recipient in your sense receiver from mail, spam, spoofing, and phishing. So SPF allows sender to define which IP address is allowed to send mail of a particular domain. So we can use this procedure for the authentication part. And if you want to learn about more the SPF, you can just go through with this link and learn it about from there. Okay. Now, the next thing, that is a DKIM. DKIM is a domain key identified mail, and domain key identified DKIM is basically providing to the mail server, that is a two things. The first one, that is a key, and the second thing, that is a signature. So once they are just having a signature as a selector, as a sector, so DKIM is a technical standard that help to protect mail sender and the recipient from spam, spoofing, and the phishing. It is a form of email authentication that allow an organization to claim responsibility for a message in a way that can be validated by the recipient. So DKIM provide an encryption key and a digital signature that verify that email message was not faked or altered. So once the SPF is checked that mail, SPF is basically define the policies, sender policies, but the DKIM is basically authenticate that mail is not a forged or not a faked mail on the basis of encryption key and on the basis of digital signature. So I will show you guys how we can check the encryption key and how we can check the digital signature also. So if you want to learn about more about the DKIM, so just go through with this link and you can easily learn about the DKIM in depth. Now, the next thing, that is a DMARC. So domain-based method authentication reporting and a conference. This is the full form of the DMARC, and it is a technical standard that helps protect email sender and the recipient from the spam, spoofing, and phishing. DMARC allow an organization to publish a policy that defines its email authentication practices and provide instruction to receiving mail server for how to enforce them. DMARC unifies the SPF and the DKIM authentication mechanism into the common framework and allow domain owner to declare how they would like email from that domain to be handled if it failed an authentication test. So if the SPF is failed, if the DKIM is failed, so the DMARC is basically going to check why this authentication is showing this is a fake mail. Okay. So this is the final authentication procedure which is used by the server once the sender is basically want to send any mail to the recipient. So if you want to learn about the DMARC, this is a link which I am already written here. So you just go through with this link, guys, and you can learn about the DMARC authentication in the depth. The next thing, that is the SPF checker. How we can check the SPF, that is a sender policy framework, and we can also check the DKIM, that is a domain key identify integrity mail. Okay, so how we can check it? Let's come and see. Okay, the next thing, that is a tool. So organizations are basically using a mail examiner, that is a mail examiner tool, which is used for examining the mail into the depth part. So this is again a paid type of tool, guys. So email examiner offers a performance with speed yet accuracy, and it is a proven easy to operate email examiner programs. So how we can use it? This is a link, guys. Just go through with this link and just download the tool, and after that you can use it easily. Clear, guys?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is a complete procedure of the email investigation. So I hope so all the procedure is clear to all. So now I'm just going to share the notes.